Can you tell us about the tips for this coming season?
Yes.
People doing virtual, they're not getting any of this?
No, they get some.
They are.
Yeah.
They asked me.
That's surprising.
Yeah, I mean, we're having some struggles with it, but take a look at that roster here. There's only how many of us in the room? 14, 15, or whatever, and we've had up to 45 people coming this far in the training,
I
so
think there's a whole lot of people
that are just watching and not doing.
that didn't send
Okay,
in
for
their
people
stuff.
online,
Yeah.
we're going to
Yep.
start here in about 3 minutes. We hope some things have been fixed. Okay.
Good to meet you. Thank you.
Safety.
Okay, are you guys, everybody needs to sit down and get logged in so we can start right on time.
Where are we supposed to be now?
I beg your pardon?
Where are we supposed to be now?
Nowhere.
Okay,
If you've you can do whatever you want with your Blogger page. You can leave it up. You can minimize it to the bottom if you want to play with it, because we're going to move on to another tool. It got very quiet in here all of a sudden. Any questions right now? Anything that while you ate lunch that you ruminated on? Either the online audience in the chat room or in Gmails, or anyone in here have a... What's your question?
I know this would kill you as an English major, but could we go a little bit more like in sophomoric version of this?
We, for those who can't hear online, Sean was asking if we could use the more sophomoric version of teaching this, and so we did discuss that. This is a lot of information and we know it, and so we want to move a little slower. So we may either drop a couple of things at the end or not give you quite as much detail about the tool. We will attempt this afternoon here to do this, to take it a little bit slower, maybe not give you quite as much detail as we had before, not teach you some of the things you don't have to know, teach you the basics, and then you can go play with it. I mean, now that you're in and you kind of know what it is, go when you have time and mess with it, and you'll learn all kinds of stuff. And you'll have our emails. If you need to ask us a question about it, we can always do it that way. All right, so I think we're on time. We're going to start the 1 o'clock session here. I want to, because about this time of day, we probably have more people from the West Coast who potentially are on and watching, because it's now 8 o'clock 9 o'clock, right? 3 hours.
It's 10 o'clock.
In
1 o'clock here.
Yes.
10 o'clock.
Oh, that's right. I think it was noon. Sorry. Okay, so we should have more people. So I wanted to go over some of the things we didn't talk about earlier with audiences that may have come on for the afternoon part of this. Please, can you go up a little bit on the screen? If you will make sure that you send, if you haven't already sent your email address to nemoteams@gmail.com, we need it, because for us to be able to communicate with you about what's going on, especially with the live stream, we need your email address, and so send that to us. Also, if you'll go to the documents for download, it's this address, the http://bit.ly/SMEM training 15. That's where a lot of the documents are for this class. So if you haven't been on before and you want to know what we're working in that. There is a roster on there. We'd like you, if you have not yet, to go roster your information, your name, your email, and the agency you're with, and those sorts of things in that document. It's good practice for using Google Drive. So I apologize for this morning's streaming issues. We didn't have any issues in this class except for going too fast, but we did have problems with streaming. I hope right now you're seeing a better stream. We took a number of steps to try to make this not be as glitchy as it was. So do send an email to Nemo Teams and let us know if you're getting it okay, or put something in the chat stream. We're doing everything we can. We haven't done this before. This is the first time we've ever tried to do this way. So please bear with us. We appreciate your patience. And just so you know, we did record the morning. Unfortunately, what we record is exactly what comes across the stream. So if the stream wasn't going well, the recording's not going to go well. We will think about how we can address that. Maybe we will personally re-record some of the morning portions so that people who missed them can actually see them. So that said, let's move on to Twitter. So we talked a little bit this morning about why to set up an incident-specific Twitter account. It's very difficult to focus what the information and news people have. People want a stream of information that's geared directly toward them and what they want, what their needs are, their community in crisis. They don't want one that's covering the entire state of Maine. They want one that covers their town or wherever the issue is happening. So incident specific, the same as project specific. Now that doesn't mean you can't leverage the Twitter accounts of other agencies that are involved. On a fire, if the agency has a Twitter account, we also encourage people to follow that Twitter account. Part of our responsibility is to sort of build their traffic on their accounts. So we do that. But when people want to follow one account to get incident-specific information or project-specific information, you need something separate. Let's talk a little bit about a hashtag, and Nathan will go into this more, but a hashtag, it's just a subject tracker. It helps you track a specific thing. If I were to put into Twitter and do a search for, let's talk about Ebola virus. If I was to put in something that just said Ebola and then virus, I would get everything in the Twitterverse, that's what we call the universe of Twitter, the Twitterverse that had the words virus and the word Ebola in it. Now, if I was a health agency and I had started a special education thing on hashtag Ebola, I want people to follow my subject matter. I want them to be able to get the health information I want them to get. So if I put hashtag Ebola, if they put that in their search, they're only going to get my stream. It lets us sort of aggregate people to focus on your stream. So that's why it's important when you start an incident or a project that you be really careful about how you gather and put together a hashtag, because it's going to let people focus on you. So you need to sort of search around and see what there is that's close to what you're trying to do, because you want to have a special, if you can, unique hashtag. It's not always possible, but you want to try to have a special, unique hashtag. Excuse me. And the other thing it does is for monitoring purposes, it lets you, normally in Twitter, the only thing you get into your Twitter feed is people you're following. You can only see people that you've chosen to follow. But if you have a hashtag you're following, you can see anyone who uses that hashtag. It doesn't matter whether they follow them or not. It's a great way to find people that have common interests. Maybe your interest is knitting, so you follow the hashtag knitting at home, I don't know, and then you find all knitters at home, and you can then individually follow those people, so they all come into your stream. So now you're developing, as we talked about before, your own stream of information that you want brought to you. So anyway, the hashtags are very good for that sort of thing. One thing about hashtags is you want to make them short. Remember, you only get 140 characters in a tweet, and that hashtag counts toward those characters. So the shorter you can make it, the better. And sometimes you're going to want two, because sometimes you have, like say you're, we'll go with the prevention team. Say you're a prevention team, and your prevention team always exists, and it's called Maine Prevent. And that's your Twitter account for Maine Prevent. But now you're doing a special project in a neighborhood where you're running a prevention campaign in a neighborhood. It's called Southeast Maine Firewise, or whatever you want to call it. And it's for some particular neighborhood. So you want to have both, because you still want people to follow Maine Prevent, because that's always in existence. But you're also going to want to have this other shorter one that's for your project specific. So, and you know what's funny? I read a statistic just recently that said when you have, and I believe it was in Facebook, because you can use hashtags in Facebook and Instagram and all those places. If you had 11 or more hashtags in your Facebook post, you were like 70 times more interacted with, engaged with. I would have thought, why, I don't know. But that was they had done a study of some 80,000 people, and each social media source had a certain number that hit its most effective. And for Facebook, it was like 11 hashtags. So where you're not limited by 140 characters, knock yourself out, you know. Put as many hashtags in there as you want to. Yeah, and use your other social media sources to promote your hashtag. Use on Facebook, you want to make sure everyone knows what hashtag. You want to use Twitter and promote your hashtag. You want to use your blog and say, don't forget to go to the hashtag. We often use our personal accounts. I have people that follow me. I use my Twitter account primarily for fire, so the people who follow me are fire related, so I push out my hashtag and make sure that so all those people following me will know what the appropriate hashtag is. You have to you leverage one to the other. And then lastly, I wanted to say that Twitter is probably one of the most, what is the word? There are more third-party tools built for Twitter to help you do things with Twitter, to use Twitter, to monitor Twitter, to analyze Twitter, than any other platform out there. So there are some that help you aggregate and pull together a number of Twitter accounts, because often you have your own account, you have let's say it's a forest, you have a forest account, you have your project account, you have the Colorado fire account, and then you have your incident account. So you want to be able to follow all of them. So there are tools. One of them is called TweetDeck. Another one is called Tweetcaster, which is for your phone. Another one is called Hootsuite. These are third-party tools that let you, I like TweetDeck. I find it really easy to use. TweetDeck is a dashboard. It brings me a dashboard. It says, here's your feed through Twitter. It's feeding all the stuff. And here is anyone who's mentioned you in particular. If somebody does this, the @ sign and my name, or the @ sign and Nathan's name, this is a mention. And if they put that into their thing, it means they're drawing it to my attention, because it will come to a special thing. I'll be notified that someone's using my name in a tweet for some reason. And I do it if I want Nathan, if I say, just finished an SMEM training in France. Nathan, you're not here. You know, I can say Nathan's Nat Hunderwaddle, and it'll bring it to his attention. I can have a column that lets me see people who mention me. I can have just 2 seconds, and then I can also have every Twitter account I have comes in, and I do it like this because they're columns, dashboards, and you can put them in perpetuity out this way. You just scroll across, and it gives you all the feeds that are coming. Any search you do, you build a column. So if I'm like on a fire, I'm going to search for the forest name I'm on, I'm going to search for the fire name, I'm going to search for the town name, because all that's going to, I don't know what people are going to put in theirs, so I can search for all those things and keep an eye on everything. So you were going to ask.
So if I wanted to bring it to your attention and Nathan's, put @Chris Erickson,
Yep.
Water, just like that?
You can put in a whole string of them. There's
no comma between them?
Nope, just put it in. Any space or comma counts as a letter if you're doing it on Twitter. So yeah, you just put @Chris Erickson, @Hunderwaddle, @whoever else you want. In fact, it's on Fridays that they have Follow Friday is what they call it. Everybody puts in, and they put in a big string of @s of people they think you ought to follow, suggesting you ought to follow this people. Here are some great follows, and you'll have as many @s as they can fit into the follow. They're just helping other people find people to follow. So if you follow one person and they're suggesting here's other people that do what we do, follow these people. Anyone else? Okay, so we'll let Nathan go on and a little more slowly talk about, and we'll try to flip through the pages not quite as fast so you can see them and the online audience can see them easier. How to set up an account and a lot of the uses for others, more specific uses for Twitter.
So we talked quite a bit about some of the theoretical stuff about Twitter accounts and hashtags and whatnot, and there normally are a lot of questions about that. We have a little bit of time. Does anyone have a question about hashtags or anything specific before we jump into it practically? Yes?
Well, I guess maybe I missed it, but you said about finding a hashtag that you want to use for your thing. Are you going to show us how you can search and find?
So the question is, how do you find the hashtag? And we will definitely show you on the screen how do you do some searches and whatnot. We'll definitely get to that point. And how do you come to a conclusion as to what hashtags to use? Any questions online, or are we all set? Okay. We're going to go ahead and proceed from here. I'm going to start off. Most everybody in the room has already created the Twitter account, but for the purposes of demonstration and for those online, we're going to go ahead and create on the same track that we had before. We're going to create a SMEM Training 15 Twitter account. So I'm going to come on in here, and the first link that you're going to want is twitter.com, as you might suspect. From right in here, you can either log in with your existing information or you can put new information down here. So I am going to go ahead and set up SMEM training. Give myself a password. Remember, I have a password system I'm setting up. Okay. Do we have an issue with this live? I want to make sure that people can see my screen.
You're not showing
Not sharing it.
online.
You're sharing your screen.
And I'm not even seeing the desktop presenter. Hang on one second. Stand by.
There it is.
We good now?
That's not showing. I'm seeing a Google stream, a Google page.
How about now?
Same thing, just a Google page.
Why don't you shut him down and he has it open, I'll go find him again.
Stand by online. We're trying to make sure that everybody can see everything.
Still just have a Google page sign up.
Okay, I'm closing out a desktop presenter. I'm gonna open it up again.
Okay.
Ah, that's good.
Is that better?
Yep.
Now you see it?
Okay, how about now? Good?
We're there.
Okay, apologies for that minor glitch. We are back up and running. Again, we're starting off at twitter.com. And I'm already logged in here. I'm going to get to a new screen where I'm not logged in so we can start from scratch. We're following our naming conventions that we talked about earlier, so I am going to try to set up with SMEM Training 15. The email account is going to be the same email that we set up earlier, SMEM Training 15@gmail.com, and I'm going to set up myself a password according to the conventions that we talked about earlier. Okay, so I'm not in yet, but now it's saying, giving me some additional information. It's, if you see this little blue check mark, let me try to make my screen a little bigger. Blue check mark here says my name is good, my email account is good, and my password is good. Notice, however, I haven't set a username yet. So this is my first and last name. I could come in here and actually make this Nathan Hünerwaddle or something else, be a little more detailed. Your username is really what you want to think about here, because SMEM Training 15 is available, but this is actually a pretty poor example for a username because it's so long. Twitter is 140 characters, and you would ideally you want to make your username as short as possible. That said, if you're trying to keep your brand the same, you may trade characters for branding. Just depends on how you want to do it. That's pretty simple there. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to take away this because you don't need to tailor it, and I'm going to hit sign up. Yay, we're glad we're here. I'm going to zoom out so we can see everything. It's going to try to get you to do all sorts of fancy stuff. I don't want to do any of that. So I'm going to just see if it'll let me skip out of all that and just go straight to twitter.com. All I did there was I stripped all the extra HTML from there so that I can go directly to twitter.com and skip their introduction process. If you want to go through the introductory process, you certainly can. Okay, first thing it's going to tell me right up here is that I need to confirm my email account. This is very important so that I can make sure that I'm getting emails and whatnot. So I'm going to need to go to my email, mail.google.com, sign in with everything I had before. And I should have an email waiting in there that says confirm Twitter. And it's in this section here, confirm your Twitter account. Hit confirm now. There we go. So I'm confirmed. So now I can go ahead and close this window and go back to what I was starting at here. If I refresh this, that'll go away. Let's go back out small. So you can see right away I've got a couple things that I need to do. This is now my full name up here, and this is my Twitter handle. You see how I got the @ sign in front of it? That's my Twitter handle, or also known as a username. Twitter handle or username are interchangeable. You want to make sure that you get a photo in here. So I'm going to go in and upload the same photo for the branding purposes, the same photo we've used for the blog, which was that Official Fire logo. And so bear with me while I find that. Open that up. It gives you kind of some options as to how you want to size it and whatnot. Again, you want to be professional, so you want to make sure that you got the whole thing in there. Hit apply, give it a chance to think, and now you have it. You have Official Fire information right here. This logo is very important because on my screen right now, it's fairly large. It's very big, but how people are using Twitter on a mobile device, and they're scrolling through all the time. Scroll, 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 scroll. So what they're seeing to catch their attention is that picture. They're not necessarily looking for the username or the handle or whatever. As they're scrolling through their feed, the picture is what's going to catch their attention. So if you have taught them that you are the source for official information, when they see that Official Fire information image, they're going to stop and actually read what's going on as opposed to just skipping on to whatever's next. So the image is very important. Once you set that image, you want the public to learn it and you don't want to change it. You can change that image, you can also change your Twitter handle, but it is poor practice to do that. I would recommend you only ever do that if you're really undergoing a major brand shift, a major brand change. Things that you can edit this section up here. If you hit the edit profile, you can add a header photo right up here, and that's really good to do because it makes your site look professional. We're not going to do that today. You can also edit the background here. So the backdrop here can also be edited to something else. And that is great to show a little bit more of your organization, your branding, your profile and whatnot, but it doesn't have to be done. Okay, what's really important is this piece right up here. Make sure you got the logo, make sure you have your Twitter handle as something that's recognizable and short. It's going to give you some suggestions. It says, hey, I want you to send your first tweet. I don't need to do that. If I hit tweet here, it'll send that off as my first tweet. Yeah, why not? Let's see what happens. If you hit that tweet, there you go. Just setting up my Twitter account. It sent my first tweet. So this is your introduction to what a tweet is. We're working on Twitter. A Twitter post is called a tweet. So here you have it. That is a hashtag. Notice how my first tweet has no spaces in it. Then the whole thing is together. So if I wanted to go see a whole bunch of other people's first tweets, I can hit that link, and now I can see all sorts of other posts that have that same hashtag in it. Because that's a very common hashtag, you're going to get all sorts of noise and information on that. Let's go ahead and post something related to our stuff today. So make sure I slow down. You're right up here, there's a box that says tweet. There's about 4 or 5 different ways that you can tweet from a computer. And this is the easiest way, is just to come up to the top of your screen, find the big blue box that says tweet, and hit tweet. And you get a box that opens up and you can start typing. Notice, let's see if I can make this bigger without messing things up. And that doesn't work. Okay. Notice that you have these numbers right over here, 140. That is going to tell you how many characters you have left. So I'm going to send a tweet saying, check out the virtual training today, available at, now I'm going to go grab the link to this Ustream account. So it's saved in here, so I copy that over. Now watch this 89. It drops down, okay? But notice if you actually counted all those up, it did not drop down significantly to match each one of those characters. What's happening is Twitter is recognizing that this is a link, and it's going to truncate it. It's going to shorten that link to save you some characters. You're not going to see it right now, but at the back end, after you hit send, it will be truncated. Okay? So don't be confused by that. Now, I want to add in our hashtag for this class that we're using today, which is SMEM Training 15. We did research ahead of time to make sure that no one else was using that, and it would be kind of our own thing. See how as soon as I typed in this pound sign, it started recommending stuff. So pound, and you see all the hashtags starting to pop up. These are hashtags that are popular, trending right now, that are out there, that it's encouraging to use if you want to. Obviously, we want to use our own because I have already, SMEM Training 15 has already been used by us today. It actually comes up. So it shows up right there. Now I'm down to 50 characters. So I actually have space to add some more stuff if I want to. I could add a photo if I like. So I could come in here and take this picture and open it up, and now it's in there. Notice I went from 40 characters to 27 characters, but you don't see anything up here. That's because what's going to happen after I send this tweet out is that this picture is going to be translated as a link. And so you'll see that that link would actually show up here if you're, Twitter is not going to really ever show you the link because it's going to preview it, but it's there. So you need to be aware of that. Now I have 27 characters left, which is good. You don't really ever, if it's possible, you don't want to run down your tweet to the point where you get down negative or even here. Because what's going to happen is when you send this tweet out, people are going to want to retweet it. And on Twitter, so you can either hit retweet right away, and it's going to do what's called a web retweet, where it takes the exact content of your tweet and shares it without editing anything. A lot of people, however, like to do some editing or make some sort of a comment on it. So if you leave enough characters left, it allows somebody to do what's called a modified retweet, where they reshare your information, but they also post a little bit of additional information in front of it or edit it a little bit.
I wanted to throw in one thing that I always try to do. If I have an important link, like if I'm on a fire and I have a link, I usually try not to put it at the end. I try to put it at the beginning, because then if people start, they usually add their stuff that they're going to add at the end, and eventually half my link gets cut off if people add too many, as they retweet and retweet and retweet. Everyone who retweets gets their name put on. So it'll say retweeted by Bob, retweeted by Chris, retweeted by, and pretty soon your message is dumped off the end. So I try to keep the link toward the front. Just a tip. If you have something like, oh, by the way, you're being evacuated, you gotta
So
look at this link, you know.
Depending on what service you're using, depending on whether you're retweeting on the web or retweeting on your phone or retweeting using a third-party application, it's all going to look a little slightly different. The key lesson to learn is try to save yourself some characters so that people can retweet in whatever format they want. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and send this out. When I'm ready, I hit tweet. I can turn location on if I wanted to. If I wanted to do that, then I would have to click on here and give permission to Twitter to use my location. That may or may not be something you want to do. Say hit tweet. It's going to think for a little bit. Now my tweet was posted. Where was it posted? It's posted on my feed. Okay, how do I find my feed? If you come over here, you see your little icon right here, profile and settings. I can view my profile. Here you go. Training today. Check out the virtual training today, exactly what it happens. See these ... This is what I'm telling you when the link gets truncated. It used to be Twitter would take this and turn it into kind of a gobbledygook link that didn't really make much sense. Now it keeps a preview of the whole thing and truncates it right there. But if you click on it, it'll take you to the full thing, to the full link. Okay?
Scroll down.
Yep. Now, what do you want to?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so now we have this picture here. Notice, however, that the picture was cut off at the bottom and cut off at the top. If you click on the picture, you'll see the whole thing. But one of the things that you're going to want to think about, and this gets a little bit more detailed than we want to go into today, is you want to figure out how to optimize your picture so that it shows up midstream so that people don't have to click on it to see the whole thing. And the general rule is try to make sure, and this is General Photography 101, make sure that what you're looking at is right there in the center. So if the top gets cut off or the bottom gets cut off, you'll see the whole thing midstream. Okay, we'll talk a bit about this tomorrow on messaging. You want the message to be in the message. So if they're just scrolling through and they don't click on a single link or anything, you want them to be able to understand everything that you're saying. That may mean that you're sending out 3, 4, 5 tweets, and that's okay. Twitter is all about the here and now. You can get away with sending hundreds of tweets in a day if you're sharing good information.
I was just going to throw in just a little bit on that, the message thing with Twitter in particular. Nothing annoys me more than, this is great, link. And I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. What is it? tell me something in your tweet, and we'll go over this in messaging, but put something in like, this is a great video on our Carlton fire, or something so that I know what it is. People won't click through very often, just like I won't, if I don't have some idea of what the heck your message is. Or here's today's update. Don't just post a link. You're not going to get the traffic that you're looking for.
Yeah. If you post a link to say, here's today's update at this link, that's fine. Then follow it up with 5 other posts that say the exact update within those posts. Then you've done the best of both worlds. You've shared the link and you've shared the update. Okay, so we've shown you how to make a quick post. You can post, again, right from here. Now we want to show you, how do you find other people to follow? How do you see who's following you? And this gets into the search function and will lead into this discussion on hashtags. So you can use, Twitter has this function up here called Discover, which you can hit, and then essentially it's going to kind of come up with recommendations and things that it thinks you might be interested based on what you followed in the past, your activity online, that type of stuff. I very rarely ever go to this section. Normally I will come in here to start searching for what I'm wanting to look for. So in this case, we're learning about social media for emergency management. So I'm going to search for the hashtag SMEM, because I know already that that's a term that people use. And I can see a couple different things. Right now I can see tweets, anything mentioning the hashtag SMEM. You see how it's right there? You see it right here? It's going to be in every single one of these posts. I can also come over here and say, I want to find people. So if you're looking for people to follow, type in the topic that you're looking at, and then hit people, and then you can see all the different people that are talking about SMEM, and then you can make an informed decision as to whether or not you want to follow them. Okay? So I know from other places that this gentleman here is an instructor of social media, so I'm going to go ahead and follow him. I've seen this account online before, and I know it's an official emergency management account, so I'm going to follow that. You see how it changes here? It's that simple to follow and unfollow. Then there are a million other ways that you can follow and unfollow depending on what app you're using and where you're at within Twitter itself. But this is just one example. So let's talk a little bit about how do I find out this information. This account right here, I'm going to click on it. This account is telling me that it thinks it is the official information for the South Carolina Emergency Management Division. Well, guess what? Anybody in the whole wide world can put together an account that says that. So one of the things that you want to do is make sure that you're kind of doing a little bit of research, doing your homework to make sure that the accounts you're following really are the accounts that you're interested in. First thing you might want to look at is how often have they tweeted? How many people are they following and who's following them? If they haven't tweeted the whole bunch, then you might not be interested in following them. And that's why if you're going to set up an account on Twitter, you want to set up an account and actually use it. Because if you only have 3, 4, 5 tweets, people aren't going to take you seriously. You need to start using it and prepare people for it. If you're using it on an incident, want to start that account up and start using it right away. Start pushing messages out. If you don't have much of a following, that's a hint that maybe this isn't the right account. Now, this little blue check mark here means that Twitter has gone ahead and verified that this account is who they say they are. That's done through a super secret algorithms process that Twitter has, and you can pursue getting verified with Twitter if you like, but that little blue check does give some credibility to the account, but again, that blue check can be given to celebrities, it can be given to official agencies. All it means is it's the account for who it says it is. So this account says it's the official information for this division. Is it really? One of the things that I would do next is I would go to the South Carolina Emergency Management Division's website and see if that website links back to this Twitter account. That's one way of verifying this information. But I'm pretty confident just looking at this that this is who they say they are. Okay, so this is their Twitter handle. And that is a very good Twitter handle. Why? Because it's short. SCEMD. It's short. Now that could be a bad thing because it's a bit of an acronym, obviously, but it follows through with South Carolina Emergency Management Division, and as long as they're messaging, like they are right here, to explain what that is, it's a good Twitter handle.
I wanted to jump in and say that one of the reasons why you want to verify or be able to look at a Twitter account is occasionally you'll have people come on that either are using your hashtag and they're commenting about your incident, and you're like, I don't know if this person's really what they say they are, or maybe they're saying something wrong, but they're saying it a lot using your hashtag, like they have some authority, and you just want to check them out, because you can engage people directly on Twitter, which Nathan will show you, and we try to say, hey, you know, what are you doing, and try to manage when people do that kind of thing. So being able to verify and cross-reference if somebody's a problem, you kind of got to know how to do it. And then if you need to, you don't do it with everyone that follows you, you'd be there forever, but occasionally you want to look at it.
Okay. So that's the username. And now to the hashtag piece. How do you pick a hashtag? What pick term do you use, etc.? My first thing before I set up a hashtag on an incident or anything is I just research what's out there already. So let's say, what's a big incident going on right now somewhere?
Oh, the Iditarod in Alaska?
How do you spell Iditarod? Iditarod 2015
There you go.
already pops up.
There you go.
So you can see here that this has already popped up. A lot of people are already using this, and you can scroll through here and see what's being said. So I'm going to stop at a couple posts and say, okay, I see Iditarod, I see Iditarod 2015, I see hashtag Fairbanks, I see hashtag Musher. So I can already see
Musher.
Musher, excuse me, Musher. I'm not from Alaska. So right from here, I can already see there's 4 hashtags that people are using, or at least this individual is using. You want to keep scrolling through to see who else is using this stuff, and then make an informed decision as to whether or not you want to join them on that hashtag, which typically you want to share information to where the people are, or if you want to go set up a new hashtag and start up a new stream. The difficulty with starting a new stream is you've got to get the public to now follow you and to start following that stream. So generally speaking, if it's best to try to send your message to where people are already talking about. In Colorado, when we have a fire, the go-to hashtag is hashtag COFire, because that's just the general catch-all, and that's a general term pretty much for every state in the country. Will have NM fire, New Mexico fire, or whatnot. That's always a safe bet. And then once you get to the point where your incident commander's named the fire, then maybe now you can actually turn the name into a hashtag, or maybe turn the name into a truncated, the hashtag would be a truncated version of the name, etc. There's a learning point, the training point that you need to make with your public and with your incident commanders to let them know that that hashtag is not the legal name of the incident. I've had incident commanders come running into me and speak when we've made a hashtag switch and say, why did you change the name of my fire? I said, we didn't change the legal name of your fire, we've changed the hashtag because the public shifted where they were getting information, so we shifted with them, so that we made sure that we were adapting to what we needed to adapt to. How do they get verified is a question that I've seen online, and the best answer that I can give to that is you have got to be active on Twitter. You've got to be linking, have an email account and a web address that links back to your Twitter account appropriately, and you have to be sharing appropriate information. You have to be sharing information frequently, and you have to build up a following. Other than that, that's the best I know as to the super secret way of getting yourself verified. Okay, so
Question.
yes.
I'm sorry for asking all these questions, but I missed something there. So if I now want to follow the Iditarod 2015,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have it here in my search thing.
Yep.
But how do I get that as one?
Okay, let's talk about that. It's a good question. The question is, how do I follow this hashtag? So with people like Mr. Scott Router over here, I know him from social media trainings. I'm going to go ahead and follow him. So now his information and his tweets are going to show up in my feed. I've kind of skipped over that in the interest of time, but your feed is over in your home screen, and you can see what's been posted. So you see what you've posted. I posted right here, and you can see what Scott's posted. We followed Chris earlier today, and so we're seeing his stuff. That is showing up into my feed. A hashtag does not show up into your feed and never will. You have to go into your search terms and type it in, okay? Or you go into here and see what hashtags people have talked about. So I can see Scott has typed a hashtag in SMEM. You click on it, and then it loads. There's no way using native Twitter for you to get that hashtag into your feed. That's where you, if you want to go into that depth, you might start using a third-party tool like a TweetDeck or Hootsuite, so that then you can set up specific feeds, and we'll show you that a little later on how to do that.
When he's talking about if you do search for it, it'll bring it up, so it'll switch when you do a search for Iditarod 2015. Once he searches for it, it'll show up, it will replace his home feed and show you the search feed.
Correct.
Now, as soon as he clicks back to home, it's gone, which is why you have the third-party tools that let you keep these, all the different streams. If you wanted to have 3 things you were following, hashtag searches, unlike people will always show up in your home screen when you follow them. But the hashtags will only show up if you use a third-party tool and you have streams, or it'll show up once in your main feed. So now it's replaced his main feed.
So one of the tricks that you can use here is you see this little save icon. I can hit save, and that way, next time I come up to my search bar, it's going to show me my saved searches. So that's one trick that you can use. Okay. In the interest of time, we're going to keep going. So that's giving you a very basic level. Again, I'm going to show you the difference between a Twitter handle and a hashtag. I really want to make sure that you see this, because there will be times where the hashtag is the same terminology as the Twitter handle. Example, us. We're using a hashtag that, by the way, is the same exact thing as our Twitter handle. It's just got a different signature in front of it. So here is our Twitter handle, at SMEM Training 15. You see how that turned blue? It's a link now. It will become a link. Here is our hashtag. Okay, see the difference? Just has the @ sign, this has the pound sign. And then I can say I want to advertise this to other hashtags that I'm aware of. So I'm going to add SMEM, Social Media for Emergency Management. I'm going to add VOST, VOST, for Virtual Operations Support Team. And why not I just throw in social media while I'm at it. So I can get away with that right now. What you don't want to do is have so many hashtags in the text of your tweet that it doesn't read. You want to be able to still read it. That's important. So if you're going to throw a whole bunch of hashtags, do it at the very end so that you can read the message and then throw the tags in at the end. Okay, so let's go ahead and send that out, and let's see what that looks like. Here we go. It's right here. Okay, a couple things I want to show you with this. This is the tweet right here. Each one of these things is a separate tweet. Why is this showing up here? This is a promoted tweet. They're trying to make money. You can get rid of those if you like by hitting dismiss. Okay, just be aware that those will pop up from time to time. Each one of these boxes is a separate tweet. Here's a tweet, here's a tweet, here's a tweet. So, the same question we had earlier, how do you share this specific tweet with somebody else? Okay, so you see that timestamp right there? 33 seconds. This was shared 33 seconds ago. If I hit that, it loads it up. Here is the exact link to this tweet. So you'll want to remember how to find that exact link for our exercise. Okay. Now you can see that my Twitter handle is lighting up here. My hashtag is lighting up. If I click my Twitter handle, it goes to our username, a preview of our home screen. If I click on the hashtag, it goes to the search term. Okay, that's the difference. All right, notifications. We're going to go through some notifications. Before we do that, to make sure it flows better, let's go ahead and show you how do you engage with other people now. So right now on the hashtag SMEM training, I can see there's quite a lot of people talking about this feed. So we've got Tracy LeClaire, who I know from Colorado, tweeting out, starting off the afternoon with an overview on Twitter. So she's turned Twitter into a hashtag, and she's used our hashtag, and that's how I found it. I want to engage with this tweet. How do I engage with this tweet? I can respond by hitting reply. There's a little arrow there. Let me show you that again so it's a little slower. Zoom in. Whoa, too far. That arrow right there, there's reply. This is retweet. So I'm going to go ahead and retweet this tweet to show you how it works. You hit retweet. It's going to ask you starting out the afternoon with an overview. Now this on Twitter itself does not give me an opportunity to edit this tweet. All I can do is hit retweet. On your phone, on the Twitter application on your phone, or on TweetDeck or Hootsuite or some other tool, you could modify and edit it. Just be aware of that. I'm going to hit retweet. it shows that I've retweeted. It's got a 1 there. If other people retweeted it 2, 3, 4, 5, 100 times, it would show a number here, so you kind of get an idea of how popular that tweet is. I can also favorite this. If favoriting is a tool that you can use to kind of save stuff for later, to send a message to the other person and say, hey, I'm not going to respond to you, but that was a really neat tweet or something. So if I hit favorite, it goes into my favorite stream, which I can show you later how to find that. It also sends them a notification that says, hey, somebody just favorited your tweet. So that's a public thing. Sometimes people use this as a bookmark, if you will, and that's fine, but if you're bookmarking somebody who's maybe a sketchy character or tweeting out stuff that's not good, and you favorite that, it's going to be in your public favorite list, and they're going to get a notification on it. So just be aware that, that there could be some public implications of simply hitting favorite. Okay, let's say I want to reply to this tweet. See how it starts off with her username? That's called her. I'm going to mention her in this tweet. So I'm going to say, glad to have you join us.
And that's what brings it to her
Today.
attention. Remember what we said? It will bring it to her attention.
Now, if I respond to this directly by myself, what's going to happen is she's going to get replied to, and it's going to be a reply to her that's public, but it's not sent out on my home feed. So you're not going to see, when I hit send on this, it's not going to show up in my home feed and everybody else's home feed, because it's kind of a quasi-private, if you will, message between me and her. It's still public, you can still find it, but it's not going to show up in the home screen. So I want to say, you know what, I'm encouraging my brand, I'm talking about my brand, I want to make sure that everybody sees that I'm saying, glad to have you join us today. So ways I can do that is I can add our hashtag, and I can also come into here and add any character in front of this. Because when Twitter sees a username right at the front, and this can be confusing, when Twitter sees a username right at the front, it's going to treat that as a reply. And so it's not going to be public fully for everybody right away. It's not going to show up in everybody's feed. So in this case, add a little dot or a period or any other text in front of that @ symbol, and now it's going to go to everybody's home feed. Okay? So I'm now going to reply. And that's what that looks like. So that's responding back and forth. You can see here that I have notifications up here. Now that I've engaged with a couple different people and done some things, I've followed a few people, I've liked or I've favorited, I have notifications. You click on those notifications up here and it tells you what's going on. So, Ms. Campbell says that the training has been great, love the great AV this afternoon. So we're receiving feedback right now online that the live stream issues have been addressed, and which is excellent news. So thank you for sharing that for us. I'm going to go
I just want to point out,
favorite
notice
that.
that it's saying @SMEM Training 15 as opposed to hashtag.
Yep.
That's different.
So this, if you were looking on the hashtag, you would never see this. So I want everybody else that's out there to kind of also see this message. So I'm going to go ahead and here reply to this. I'm going to copy, I'm going to do what's called a manual retweet here. I'm going to copy the content that she just put in here. I'm going to put it in here. So now I'm saying RT. RT stands for retweet. What I'm saying here is I'm retweeting the fact that she, @JULENAFC, loved the great training. And you can see somebody else, remember when I interacted with Tracy? Now she's responding to that interaction. That just popped up on my screen here. So I'm manually retweeting what she just said, and I'm going to go ahead and throw in the hashtag. Now, technically, I have now changed her original message. So it's not an actual retweet, it's what we call a modified retweet. Put an M in front of the T, and now it's known on Twitter as a modified tweet. Now I can send that out. Now you'll be able to see her message and my message if you're searching the hashtag. So those are some ways that you can engage back and forth. Some other things that we'd like to be able to show you how to engage is you can do a direct message to someone. And essentially this is doing an email within Twitter. Email back and forth. The catch here is you have to be following whoever you're sending the message to, and they have to be following you in order to converse back and forth. So I'm going to go ahead with the purposes of demonstration. I'm going to go find my personal self, and I'm going to follow myself. Okay, now I'm going to go, don't get confused, I'm going to move pretty fast here. I'm going to move, this is now my personal computer. Notice I have 12 notifications over here. One of those should be that I was just followed. And it probably is not caught up yet. It's not showing up. So I'm just going to go in here to find me. See how I put the @ symbol in there in front, and immediately it's recognizing I'm looking for a username, and I popped up right there. So I'm going to go ahead and follow. So now we're both following each other. Now, as long as there's no time lag, this should work. I can come into here. Let me slow down. We're both following each other. I go up into the messages tab up here. I can hit a new message under direct messages, new message. And now I have to select who I'm going to send this message to. So again, I type in the username. Hit next, okay? And now I'm going to say test message. This is not going live on my Twitter account. It is private between our two Twitter accounts, like a private email. You can add a photo if you like. You could even now on the, I believe on your phone, Twitter now allows you to do a group message to groups now, kind of like a group text. So if this works appropriately, when I switch back here, I'm going to get a message. See, I have it in here. So this is the message that just showed up to me. I can open it up and then I can engage back and say, test received. Notice you still are limited by your number of characters. The reason I'm showing this to you is this is very important if and when you're engaging with somebody on Twitter and it gets to the point where for whatever reason you want to take that conversation offline, you want to go private, but you don't want to necessarily share your phone number with them or your email or whatever else. You can say, hey, can you go ahead and direct message me your address or whatever your specific question is, and then you can get to a more personal engagement through the direct message feature. Okay? So that's direct messages. We're going a little over time right now, but I have a couple more things to show you. I want to go ahead and show you real quickly. You really need to know how to get into your settings. I haven't really touched on that at all, but you need to learn how to get into your settings and how to change stuff around. So in order to do that, very simple. You come up to the top of your screen here, find yourself, hit settings. So find the little icon that represents you up on the top of the screen, come on down and hit settings. Here is where you can edit all the nuts and bolts of your account. So you can change your username if you like. Again, highly recommend you keep that the same. Make sure you're set up in the right time zone. All those timestamps that I showed you and how you find that exact link, that's going to go back and relate to your time zone. If you're on an incident account and you're not set up in the right time zone, people are going to get really confused really fast, especially when it comes down to documentation of when you said what and why. And on an incident, as most of you probably already know, people are going to want to know, when did you say it, why did you say it? It's going to come back in a legal argument about evacuations or who knows what later on. So making sure that your timestamp is with the right time zone is important. I'm going to skip over most of these because we don't really have the time, but I want to show you mobile notifications here, because this is what can allow you to get alerts on your phone. Even if you don't have the Twitter app on your phone, you can come into here, add your phone number in here, and you can start getting notifications through your texts. This is a tool that you can have. You can have people come in and set up notifications to their phone. You could set up your boss who maybe doesn't want to have a Twitter account and help set them up with a Twitter account and then just send stuff to their phone without them really even having to fully engage Twitter. It's a way of trying to keep the bosses informed, or other people who just like to receive a text versus deal with an app. So that's one option that you have up in there.
And really quickly, I'll jump over here. You can do it completely outside of this on your cell phone.
Yep.
What we do when, like, the mayor in a town says, I want to know what the tweets are, or say the forest supervisor, is 40404 is the, I don't even know what you call it, the designator for Twitter. So if you're going to send a text message, instead of putting a phone number in there, you put 40404, as though that's the phone number, and you send a message that says follow, and then a space, and then the name of the, like, ABC Fire, or whatever the username is of who you want to follow. And send, and they'll get one reply back that they have to say, verify that you want to follow this. Yes, I do. And it's done. And they will now get that as a text message. It's also polite to let them know how to stop it.
Yes.
It's because they may not know.
So here's an example of, on our at the State of Colorado Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, everybody's signature line has this common text on here. If you would like to receive COE Emergency Twitter messages by text, simply text follow COE Emergency to 40404. That's simple. That's simple. And Twitter will start sending you messages and give you instructions as to how to, you literally text stop and it'll stop and that type of thing. Very, very simple. This is one way to answer the person that says, I do not want to have a Twitter account, but I want to know what you're saying. Here's your answer right here.
So they get the text of the Twitter,
Yes, they get the text. Every time you send us a tweet, they'll get that text.
of the tweet.
Yep.
So how do you stop it? Do you want to stop it?
Again, they're going to send you a series of texts that gives you instructions, and I believe it simply is you text stop to 40404.
Oh, okay.
I think you say stop, space, and
Yep.
then the name, and 40404.
Correct. Okay, so I'm just going to go through my list of things that I want you to practice during the demonstration. There's a lot of stuff I have not shown you, but hopefully I've shown you enough to be able to set up an account, how to share a tweet on the SMEM Training 15 tag. So I hope to see, if everybody in this room tweets once and if everybody else online tweets once, I hope to see 50 to 100 tweets on SMEM Training 15 on that hashtag. Try sending out a tweet with a link so that you can see how it truncates the link. Let's see. I want you to find an exact link to one of your tweets. So again, how do you find that exact link? You come in here, you find that date and timestamp right here, date and timestamp. Click on it, you got that exact link. I want you to copy that link over, go back to that roster and links document that's in the shared Google Drive. I will walk through that again for those online. Find where you are on here, and I want you to put that link right into your section here. That's simple, okay? Let's see, what else do we want you to do? We want you to find the Twitter account that we just set up, the SMEM Training 15. I want you to go ahead and follow that account. I want you to try to find other people that's on today, follow those accounts and engage back and forth. Try to send me a direct message. It's gonna be a little difficult for me to stay on top of following everybody else. So if I don't get it right away or respond right away, give me a little time to follow you back. Try posting a picture or a video to SMEM Training. You can, without the app, you can't really, it's difficult to post a video, but try taking a YouTube link and throwing that into Twitter and see what happens. What you're gonna see is when you hit send, it's gonna come up and the Twitter's gonna understand that that YouTube link is a video and it's gonna show you a preview. It's kind of a neat little tool. And then if you have time, go ahead and set up your own personal mobile notifications, and that might include opening up the app and downloading it to your phone if you have not done that already. Okay, so for those benefit of those people online who may have joined us a little later, there is a common folder that's you can access by simply typing in this password or this account, http://bit.ly/SMEM-training15. You can access it there. We have also shared that link on Twitter, and I can try to remind myself to send it out again on Twitter. Once you go inside that link, there's going to be a number of different documents, and the one that we're using right now is this roster and links. You want to make sure that you have access to this so that you can participate in some of this training. Okay, with all that said, that should end our training on Twitter right now. Are there any broad-based questions that I can answer before we get down to individual help? Nothing, no questions online? Excellent, so
It's okay, Sean.
we will go ahead and end this. What we're gonna do, let me get my agenda back out. We'll meet back together here promptly at 2:15. Eastern time, so that doesn't give too much time to practice, so get practicing right away. 2:15 Eastern time, and we'll be starting to take a look at Facebook. If you have questions, you can email those to nemoteams@gmail.com, ask them on the Ustream comment stream, and this is your chance now that we're dealing with Twitter to start talking at SMEM Training 15, hashtag SMEM Training 15.